Hi, this is Christopher Clark, Town Administrator for the Town of Harwich. I'm here today to talk a little bit about the upcoming town meeting warrant and what what issues town meeting will have before it. We have a schedule that includes, at the moment, the annual town meeting has 65 warrant articles. What I'd like to do is, I'm not going to go over each individual article, but I at least want to point out some of the highlight articles that we have that you folks at home may be interested in prior to town meeting. So, per usual, on the warrant, we have several of the typical budget items. We have the town operating budget, Monomoy Regional School budget, Cape Cod Tech. I think a couple of notes on that. Cape Cod Tech in particular, very interesting that their budget overall only went up by 0.5%, but because of some comings and goings in the enrollment, they had, I think it was approximately 21 students that went to, from DY that didn't return. And that had an impact of driving our percentage up, even though our population stayed pretty much the same, because the overall population went down, that our percentage went up to 7%. So even though their overall budget went up by only 0.5%, the impact on us due to enrollment shifts was over 7%. So that was a fairly dramatic thing with fairly small numbers of people. In terms of some of the other things that we do have an item where we've tried to consolidate. This is actually currently Article 10, in which we took several of the capital items that are below $50,000 and grouped those into one article. So several small capital items are grouped into one. The reason why we did that is under the charter, it has for the Capital Outlay Committee to weigh in and give recommendations on all articles or all requests over $50,000, and there was no real good place to put small articles. So by creating a small articles or small requests article, we have the opportunity to vet through several items that are fairly minor in nature, but when they accumulate, have a bigger impact. The other one that we've done is facility maintenance and repair. Instead of having talk about roofs and boilers in several different articles, we've tried to merge those all together into a facility maintenance article for consideration. So that was something else that I think is a newer concept this year that I don't think has been done in the past. I think one of the good news things in this budget has been proposed by the administrator. It has not yet been formally voted by the selectmen, but in there we've had a pretty good year for free cash, over $4 million, and this budget really reflects using that free cash, about half of it towards capital type of appropriations. So the number of debt exclusion articles that we have will be significantly reduced from previous years, the combination of debt exclusion and capital exclusion. Again, capital exclusion last year, as an example, we asked for an additional ambulance, and that was because it was an additional one, was on for a capital exclusion last year. This year, the regular rotation of ambulances is in there, and that's $290,000, and that we actually have being paid out of free cash. So the idea was to not go above Proposition 2.5, except in 3 very unique circumstances. So a lot of typical requests that you would see from Department of Public Works, equipment, the golf department, some landscape improvements. Really some of the bigger ones that I just want to point out, specifically the ones that would be for the debt exclusion. One would be the reconstruction of Sacco Tucket Harbor on the water side. Last year there was an article that went to the ballot question for design money. That design is in the process of being finalized. The estimated cost to do Sacco Tucket Harbor is about $7 million. We do anticipate, and I am working on trying to get the final kind of numbers for how much we can take out of fees versus how much we would need from the voters. So the anticipation is that a large portion would come from fees, and then the balance would come as form of a debt exclusion. So even though the number is going to be a gross of $7 million, we have heard that we have $1 million grant already. So that number is now down to $6 million, and then a portion of that $6 million will be paid out of fees and not directly by the taxpayer through your property taxes. The other one that we have, this has been almost an annual occurrence of a debt exclusion for road maintenance. Last year, that number was substantially smaller. I think we asked for $250,000. The reason that it was smaller last year is because we got supplemental aid from the state through Chapter 90. Chapter 90 is just a chapter of law in which the state goes and gives money to cities and towns to improve their roads. So last year we had, because of the tough winter, additional money was given to us, as well as Governor Deval Patrick had withheld money that this governor had decided not to, Mr. Baker. So that number is $700,000. Our target is $1.4 million to road improvements. Out of the 140 plus miles of public way that we have in the community, roughly it's about $1 million a mile. So we're just doing a little over a mile, maybe closer to 1.5 miles of roadway for significant improvement. We do a lot of different treatments to try to maintain the roads in a positive state. The next item that is fairly substantial in terms of dollars is we contemplate having a intermunicipal agreement, sometimes referred to as an IMA, with the town of Chatham to utilize their wastewater treatment facility. That wastewater treatment facility, because it's in another town, requires an intermunicipal agreement. We just got back information fairly recently from the town of Chatham in terms of what they would like to see in the agreement. So there's still some negotiations to go. So there's an outside chance that that's not going to be. It is on the warrant, but it may not be considered at this town meeting if the negotiations cannot be concluded. Really within the next 30 days is probably the timeline that we're looking for. If we're going to go beyond that, then potentially we would be looking at conceivably doing a fall town meeting that would be dedicated for wastewater related issues. So that number that we've been carrying is $9 million. The number that was presented in the IMA from Chatham was over $9 million, closer to $10 million. So hence some negotiations that have to continue in that area. As usual, I think we have probably about 10 to 15 CPC related articles. The one thing we are doing this year that we have not done in previous years. In previous years, we included the land bank debt service in the operating budget, but we have found that doing that creates a little bit of element of confusion. So we're keeping all all CPC related articles, which is the debt service as well, in one grouping. So we're not going to commingle with the general fund, have that in with the operating budget. We're going to have that be standalone. So when you go to that section of the warrant that has all the CPC articles, they'll all be grouped in that same grouping, and they'll be the total of the amount that we anticipate that will be either on hand at the CPC funds or to be generated with CPC revenues. So that's something a little bit different than we've seen in the past. Also, just to kind of wrap up, I've gotten the high sign that we're at about the 8-minute mark, so we're a little bit of a ways in. There are two, actually I probably should mention 3 charter-related items. Some of these are grouped in Article 48 and 49, as well as 50, which really deal with changes to the charter that have been contemplated. I think these are fairly minor in nature and are designed to kind of clean up elements in the charter. I think the Charter and Bylaw Committee has done an outstanding job of going through and vetting those. And then we do have 2 articles that were citizen petitions. One of them creates a charter enforcement committee, and the other one is a demolition of residential buildings. The Charter Enforcement Commission is Article 55 of the warrant that would be creating a body to enforce the charter elements if people believe that they're not being adhered to. And then Article 56 is a demolition of residential property. I think this is centered around the historic home, the Chase home on Main Street in West Harwich. There has been a lot of significant resident activity about preserving that property. So a little bit longer than I wanted to. I apologize for having this be a little bit lengthy. If you do have an interest or topics that you'd like to see covered, again, please feel free to contact the number below or get a hold of Caleb directly, and more than happy to address any specific issues that residents of the community have about how their government works. Thank you for your time and attention. Christopher Clark, Town Administrator, Town of Harwich.